Hello. Welcome everybody. We're excited about the game Saturday. I really like this team. I like this staff. They're all getting along, which sounds simple, but football is a simple game coached and played by complicated people. So you always have to be on the same page, and you always got to be working toward the same goal. And it's not as easy as you think sometimes. It's amazing how many places that I hear with coaches fighting over defense or offense, or you're throwing it too much, or you're not giving us a chance, you're keeping us on the field too much, or what we should have done for the game plan or plays. But this team's playing really hard, and they're playing tough. That's something that a goal that we had, something we're really proud of. And that was a very physical game on Saturday night. We didn't play well all the time. And that's the good thing, to be sitting here at 6-0, and we can improve a lot of things. If you're playing perfect and you're winning, then it's scary that when you don't, that you may not do as well. But we're running the ball one week and we're throwing it the next week, and there's something that we can do each week to help us. Defensively, we're forcing turnovers. We're protecting the ball on offense. So there's things that that these guys are finding a way to win. And there again, we're still not playing near up to the standard that we need to win all the games. And that was the goal every year, but specifically this year, that you want to get to the end and be undefeated. But they are 6-0 for only the 9th time ever. We were 8-0 in the we were 8-0 in 97, but 6-0 for the 9th time ever, which shows you how hard it is. And that 8-0 team got beat by #1 Florida State in one of the great games here in our past. It's only the 2nd time ever that we've scored 30 points or more in 6 straight games to open the season. The last time it happened was 1914. Which some people would think I was at that game. I was not. You were too. Did you cover it?
Listen to it on the radio.
Listen to it on the radio, if they had radio, or whatever it was.
Morse code.
Morse code I was trying to remember what that was. I'm glad you said that. Players of the game, offensively, Omarion Hampton and Tez Walker. Omarion had 24 carries for 197 yards. He averaged 8.2 yards per catch, had a rushing TD and a passing TD. Tez had 6 catches for 132 yards, 22 yards per catch, 3 touchdowns. Tez and Hakeem Nicks are the only 2 players to have 3 receiving touchdowns against a top 25 opponent in our history. And then defensively, Sid Gray played an unbelievable game like he does every week. 10 tackles, a tackle for a loss, an interception, a fumble recovery, and a pass breakup. He just is really amazing, and his story has helped this team. For him to have come back when he could have gone to the NFL is so unusual in modern day. For him to come back because I want to win a championship and not be selfish but be a team guy is something that each of our guys look up to. It's also so unique that we've lost a kicker and a punter for the season. That just doesn't happen. And so proud that Noah stepped up, Noah Burnett, and he's made every kick. Liam Boyd is kicking the ball where we want to on the kickoffs, even though we're not always kicking it out. And Tom McGinnis stepped up, 22-year-old freshman. First time he'd ever been in a football game. Excuse me. This summer, he actually had never played football. So he actually got online and ordered a football uniform. And it wasn't any good. And he said he didn't know how to put it on. So that's a pretty big jump for going into a football game with 6 punts, averaged 38.3 yards per punt, 2 inside the 20, and had a long of 50 yards. And these guys are incredible. You see Ben Kiernan, who's got to be so disappointed that he's out for the year, and he's down there coaching Tom so hard and coaching him on the sideline and helping him try to relax before the game. And we're seeing that in so many different areas. I was really disappointed for Kobe Paysauer that he just running and planted his foot. This game's amazing. You can hit so many people and be so physical and then run and have a non-contact injury that sets you back. And Kobe's attitude was so good. I said, I'm so sorry. You're playing so well, and I love you, brother. And he said, Coach, it's just part of my journey. You got to learn to handle stuff in your life. So I'm not that mature. So I love these kids and what they stand for.
Mack, so who is the special teams player of the week?
I'm sorry, Tom McGinnis.
Okay, so
Not Noah. Noah made all the kicks, but for Tom to come in and do what he did with the punts, we felt like he would be the special teams player of the week. So 2 for offense, Omarion and Tez, Sid Gray on defense, and Tom McGinnis on special teams. Offensively, 508 yards against one of the better defenses in the country. 235 yards rushing against the #1 rush defense in the country. They were number 5 in total defense. We got off to a slow start. They came after us and we didn't handle it well, and we thought we needed to get a quick start because of their disappointing game last week. We thought we'll get them on their heels and get them going, and we didn't do that at all. So we were disappointed. We were pleased the way we ran the ball, but disappointed in our pass protection early. And it wasn't just offensive line. We had some busts because they gave us some different looks and we didn't handle them well. We had some tight end mistakes. So early, we didn't respond very well in that first half. Second half was much better. And I applaud the coaches at halftime. Both sides of the ball were playing really well in the third quarters. And a lot of times if you're down at halftime, the measure of a good coaching staff is can you turn it around and win the second half? Can you make the adjustments? And these guys are doing that. And you can see our third quarters have been some of the best that we've had since we've been here. But played much better in the second half than we did the first half. We still had entirely too many penalties. This one will make the people that don't like me have something to talk about, so this is one for them. But we looked really hard at penalties, and penalties were not a real difference maker in who won and lost games for our first 4 years here, as we were looking at it. And I remember Florida State had more penalties than anybody in their league when they were here and beat everybody. And they did it every year. And I asked Coach Bowden, and he said, you have to be really, really careful that if you're making aggressive penalties, you don't want a team to become passive, and you don't want to make them scared. So there's a fine line between correcting the mistakes and not making your team get too cautious and too soft. So too many penalties without question. We've got to improve that area. We haven't had it till this game. We will always encourage, if you have an official's crew that throws a lot of flags, and this one threw a lot of flags, then you just want them to throw them for both teams. That's the question. If you're gonna throw flags for everything, that's fine, we got it, but just throw them. And make sure that you're throwing them for the same call on either side. And some don't throw many flags. So it's just different. You never know what you're going to get. But this was an aggressive crew, and we had penalties, and we had too many, and we got to get them corrected. But like one thing, we have always had our defensive line and rushing the passer can put your hand up under the face mask and rush the passer like this. And for 4 years, that was okay. We did that twice Saturday night, and it got called for hands to the face. So we've got to call the ACC office and make sure that we get an official ruling on what they're going to call. Because if this isn't hands to the face, because it's not up in the face, but it's up under the face mask, and an official turns and sees a head back, he's going to think it's hands to the face, then we've got to get a ruling on how they're going to call that, because they haven't called that for 4 years, and it was called twice Saturday night. And the other one that's a tough one is the rule states if you hit a quarterback in the head, if you touch his head, it's basically a penalty. Well, Javari Ritchie had his hand up and just barely grazed the helmet. technically, that's a roughing the passer penalty. Should it be? I don't know. I think you got to look at it, but technically, he did touch his helmet. So those are things that you got to look at. So we've got to look at, you look at the overall too many penalties and you say, God, that's too many penalties. This is stupid. They're undisciplined. What we have to do is break down every penalty and see why we had it. We can't line up offsides. We lined up offsides twice. That's inexcusable before the snap of the ball. And neither one of them affected us, but it could. It could this weekend. If it's a 4th and 3 and we stop them and we line up offsides, it's a game changer. And then there were too many holding penalties. Again, you've got to go back and look at that. And part of it's you have more penalties when you're playing great athletes. It's harder to block them. That's what we've always said. Why do you have penalties in big games? Well, they're playing better players. It's hard to block a better player. So we've got to go back and look at all of that. We weren't good on third downs this week. We were second in the country going into the game, and we weren't good on third downs. Part of that's penalties. It took us out of some situations where we needed to do better. And then I think we had 18 explosive plays. So that's the most explosive plays we've probably had since we've been here. So we weren't as good down to down, and we had explosive plays with some really good players. But we got to clean up the third downs. We've been rushing some on fourth down. We've messed that up the last 2 weeks. So we got to look at what fourth down means. What's the 4th and 2? Review that package and see where we are. Is sometimes going really fast is helpful. Sometimes it hurts you. So we've got to make sure that it's an advantage for us. Really unhappy with a 1-minute drill right before the half. We get the ball with 1:28 left. We take 14 seconds off the clock. And it's a 14-14 game. And we've got 3 timeouts in our pocket. We take 14 seconds off. So we punt it back to them. They get it to -34. There's 55 seconds left, and they have a timeout, and they get a field goal. So they go in at halftime, and that's as much a product of our offense, not killing the half and having a chance to kick a field goal for us, as it is our defense not standing up. So it was a little bit of both, but very disappointed. And we haven't been as good in the red zone the last 2 weeks. And part of that's fourth quarter, and I still don't like our 4-minute offense. We're not running it as well as we should. We've been ahead in every fourth quarter, and we're trying to kill the clock and still score, and we're not doing that as well as we should, so we can do it better. And the other thing we didn't do well, you force 4 turnovers and get 7 points out of those turnovers. That's not good. We're not helping our defense. Our defense gave us 4 opportunities. Now, one of them is really 3, because one of them, the last one, was the last play of the game, so it wouldn't count in that group. But we had 2 other opportunities to get points with turnovers that we didn't get. That's just that's unacceptable. When you get sudden change, you got momentum, you should have opportunities to score touchdowns. Defense, we felt like we had a solid performance. They played hard, played much better the second half than they did the first half. We gave up 31 points, but we had them at 17 midway through the fourth quarter. So again, that's partly the offense not moving the ball, staying on the field. It's partly probably the defense getting a little soft when you're way ahead and giving them too many things. You can't have a ball thrown over your head with 2:17 left for a 54-yard touchdown. You just can't. You're trying to keep them in front of you. You're trying to kill the clock. You let them score easy. I think it was Boise and Colorado State that Boise was ahead 20 points with 4 minutes left to go in the game, and score onside kick, throw Hail Mary and win the game. So these games are never over anymore. You've got to keep playing, and I didn't think we kept playing like we should have in the fourth quarter. I thought latter part of that we got too happy with ourselves, and we got to mature. You got to put people away. You got to finish strong. You got to have a killer mentality instinct in the end of the games, and we don't have that right now. That's something that that's a standard we're not living up to. We were really pleased that we forced the 4 turnovers. Like we said, usually you force 4 and give none, you're going to win the game. Really pleased that they were 3 of 11 on third downs, but they were 3 of 4 on fourth downs. And now with the new analytics, people are trying to set up fourth downs with third down, so it's not as impressive because the fourth downs are more important than the third downs, obviously. So the stat looks good, but in reality, 3 out of 4 fourth downs is not good. We did keep them out of the end zone. 2 of their 4 trips to the red zone, they didn't score touchdowns, but we just had too many mistakes. There's a 30, I think they only had 9 explosives, but 3 of them or 2 of them are touchdown passes. Where a couple of them, we're not even around them on the wheel route. We just, they caught us, they had a great call, and we didn't respond to it well. And again, too many penalties on defense, which was uncharacteristic for us. Pleased with Tom McGinnis again, first game ever. Noah Burnett made all his kicks. Our kickoff coverage still isn't good. We're looking at personnel. We got guys that we tell you go around to the left and they're going out around to the right and they get so excited they want to make the play and they get out of their lane and it's opening up a big play for us. So these are smart kids. They got in Carolina and he didn't know to go left. And I said it's coaching too. It's us. So if we can't go to the right side and we're not kicking the ball out, that can really kill us at some point during the season. So we've got to do a better job in that area. And since Elijah Huzzy returned the punts at Pittsburgh, people are putting such an emphasis on covering that we're not holding up as well. So we didn't give him a chance in either of the last 2 games. Analytics has been really interesting for coaching and for fans, I know, as they start looking at it. Now you're seeing and listening just like our 2 field goals on 3rd or 4th down and short. The analytics would say either or, do what you want, coach's choice, but we'd probably kick because it puts you up by 3 scores. So that's, you have to think about that as you're sitting there and you got 15 seconds basically to think about it. But it's really interesting. I'm seeing people that say when it's a tie game, or even if you're down by 3 and you're at the 20 and it's a 4th and 3, you should go for it because if you score a touchdown, or you may miss the field goal. So I get all the percentages. It just really gets, there's a lot more complication when you're looking at how to manage a game than ever before. And we are trying to keep our timeouts till the end, and we've done a great job of that. You can have a lot of plays in 15 seconds if you got 3 timeouts. So people say, why don't you use them when there's 2 minutes? Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, timeout's timeout. So maybe you don't want to use them at that time, or the analytics will say call a timeout on 3rd down or on 2nd down after 2nd down if they're moving the ball right before the half to save time. Well, if they're really good and they're moving the ball, you don't want to save time for them. So that all those things are just different in coaching than they've ever been. I was talking to Freddie Kitchens this morning and he was just laughing about it. It has totally changed the mindset of a game and how you manage the game and the ability for people to second guess a coach, because now, and that's an open door. It is wide open on, well, he should have done this, he should have done that. Well, analytics said this. Well, analytics wasn't out there. Analytics is stupid. Oh, boy, he should have done what analytics said. So it gets a little confusing now. As I said, football is a simple game coached and played and watched by complicated people, and written about and talked about by complicated people, may I say. Virginia is a great game for North Carolina. The 2 universities are so similar. I think it's the oldest rivalry in the South.
That's what they call it.
I think it's the second.
Is that Georgia and Auburn? I always get confused, I know. But anyway, it's
Deep South.
South's oldest rivalry. Well, I know we've been playing a long time.
Minnesota, Wisconsin's the only older one, I think.
It's over.
Yeah.
And that's not in the South.
No.
So we're good there. I've got great respect for Tony Elliott. His life story is unbelievable. If you haven't read it, you should. He's overcome so many unbelievable things in his life to get where he is today. And I admire him, I respect him. He's an outstanding young coach. And at the same time, the tragedy that he went through last year with his team is something none of us ever want to have. And he handled it with grace and helped everybody manage it through a very difficult time. So I'm a friend of his. He sits with me at the ACC meetings because he said he'd been with Dabo so much he don't want to sit with him anymore. So I save a seat for him every year because I said, now you don't have to do what Dabo says. He said, yeah, but I've heard him enough. I don't need to sit with Dabo. So when Dabo invites him over, I still get him to be with me. But they're going to play hard. They're going to play great. Their record is not near indicative of how good their team is because they've had a chance every week to win. And they won last week, 2 weeks ago, and they had a week off, so they'll be totally prepared, and we'll have our hands full coming in this weekend. And we've got to handle success. That's something we haven't done very well around here. And I didn't even think we handled it really well last week because we had beaten Miami 4 times in a row, and now 5. I thought some took that for granted a little bit. I didn't like part of Wednesday's practice. So to be a great team, you've got to have a great attitude, and you got to play to a standard. And that standard is to win every game. It's not to win this week. And that's something that guys have to do. And we're not dealing with video games. We're dealing with human beings that have a lot of stuff going on in their lives and are banged up, and it's mid-season. They got midterms and a whole lot going on. So, but Virginia beat us 4 times in a row, and we've been able to pull it out the last 2 years. So this should be a great game this weekend. I'm hearing it's near a sellout, or going to be a sellout for sure. And our crowd was unbelievable Saturday night. It's one of the best we've had. It reminded me of the first game back with Miami. And the fans were a difference. And our student body should get votes for the best student body in the country. They come every week and they bring it and they're fun. And just going back and watching the TV copy and hearing them during the game, they're the best. So. And we need the same this weekend. This is our cancer awareness game. We'll have a lot of things that we'll talk to you about during the week that build up to this, but we always should be aware of people who are fighting cancer or families who have lost people who have. But this week gives us an extra week to just make sure that we reach out to those who are struggling and try to help them. And of course with Tylee, we've got one of our own fights here to try to continue to help him. Questions?
You've always talked about trying to block out the noise, and especially with the rankings, but you've also talked about this year about, as you guys win more games, drawing that parallel to the 97 team and creating new history. Do you count that as noise in the same regard as like a breaking into the top 10 of the AP top 25, or is it something entirely different?
I'd say yes and no, probably, because we always talk about the polls on Sunday, and then we never mention it again. And I had actually forgotten we were 10th, very honestly. But the difference is this year we've earned being 10th. In 21, we were given it before the season based on the year before, and I don't count those. As you get to this part of the year, you get what you earn, and these have earned it. Now, it's hard to keep it there, and it doesn't really matter right now. But what I have talked to them about is in our lives moving forward, polls are going to matter more because of playoffs. And it really hasn't mattered. It's something to talk about. The polls aren't important until the college football poll comes out here in a couple of weeks. That'll be the one that matters. And I will say, I told our guys, listen, you're 10th in both polls, and nobody moved. A couple of years ago, I think I said you're 8th in preseason, and they all cheered. I thought, yeah, you hadn't earned anything, so don't cheer. And then we lose to Virginia Tech in the opener. I think they appreciate being where they are. They've worked hard to earn that, and they know that it's fleeting. You better win. And I think there's 8 undefeated teams left in Power 5. And I told them, every time you look up, there's fewer. And what were they thinking last Tuesday? What were the ones that lost thinking on Monday? Were they thinking about where they were ranked, or were they thinking about winning the game? So this is a mature team. Now, there's some immaturity on it, obviously, but it's a mature team. They were not happy yesterday with the way they played. And the coaches were not. We were hard on each other, and it was one of the toughest team meetings I've ever been around after a win. And now we're putting their highlights up and showing the highlights, and then we're putting plays up where you played poorly. And we're going over them and saying, we can't do this. This was a 30-yard run, and here's why. You didn't do what you were supposed to do. You didn't do what you were supposed to do. You whiffed in space. And to get where we want to go, that's unacceptable. And the same thing with the sacks. We put the sack up and say, here's why we had the sack. Why did we not communicate well? Why do we turn one loose? So it's, this is, we're at a different place right now with this team and staff than we've been in our 5 years here.
Mack, with the improved maturity, as you said, do you think that's a credit to guys like Cedric and British really coming into their own as leaders as opposed to 2 years ago when they were sort of not in that spot yet?
Absolutely. We all talk about player-led teams, and that's what you want. Very few have it, and they'll have it on good days, but you need leaders on bad days. And if you're a leader, you can't have a bad day. You got to come with it every day, and the guys you mentioned do. And Corey Gaynor's been an unbelievable leader in that offensive line for us, and this is the toughest offensive line we've had. Now, we've made some mistakes, but they'll fight you. And I think that's a credit to Randy Clements, but also a credit to Corey Gaynor, because he'll fight them if they're not fighting. So that's just part of it. But it is just an older, more experienced team. Defense has been there, done that, except for the corners. And Marcus Allen's playing really well. Tayon Holloway's getting better. Armani Chapman came in and made some plays on Saturday that really helped us. So we're growing up. I was toughness. Gio Biggers bangs his shoulder up, comes right back in the game. Marcus Allen bangs his shoulder up, comes right back in the game. I'm seeing things. Kevin Hester sprains an ankle. We thought he'd be out 3 or 4 weeks. He played his tail off Saturday in that game. So we're a tougher team. Our offensive line's been playing banged up the whole time. They've had sore ankles, and some of them can't even push off during practice at times. And so I really like just the attitude overall of this team and the toughness and the leadership.
Matt, you talk about. Go ahead, too. I will always defer.
Go ahead.
I'll set my finger up first.
Yes.
Now, coaches always talk about halftime adjustments. How much adjusting can you do at halftime? And how many games are won and lost at halftime? And what does a head coach do?
Yeah, Chip, it's a great question, because I sit there and I say, we made great halftime adjustments. Well, why didn't we have a better game plan? You know, I mean, that's the question that you ask. Why didn't we do that? Part of it's because teams play you differently. And the first quarter is always a new world, because you're wondering what they brought differently. Like one of those blitzes they brought that got to us we'd never seen. And it just caught us off guard. Gil Brandt, who we just lost, was a dear friend of mine, and he told me that you can tell more about coaches at halftime than any other time, because everybody can have a game plan, but the ones that adjust to the things that aren't working during the game are the best coaches. And that Gene Chizik, to me, has been unbelievable in his third quarters. He totally shut down Miami in his third quarter. I think it's 200 yards to 29 or something at one time when I was looking at it. So I really like the fact that they do it. Some can do it easier during the game. Some have to sit down at halftime and just look at the whole picture. And I'll sit there with the stats. And that's one thing I do, is I walk in and talk to them first and say, we got 5 sacks. We said protection was going to be the difference, and we had to take care of Drake. So come on, man. So let's look at what do we do different. Let's do quicks. Let's move the quarterback. We've got to do some things differently, and we got to do them fast. And they did that, and they came out and did it. So it's a great question, but I think it's the most under-talked about important thing in college coaching. Because when you look at when people are behind, how many win coming out in the second half, and it's the numbers aren't good. The numbers aren't good. Some people are better at game plans than they are adjusting. Some people get stubborn. I always felt like you need to be simple enough to know what to go to when what you're doing is not working. What's next? And you need to go fast. You don't need to be saying, God, we're in trouble, man. We're not blocking them. That gets you beat. Yes, Tom?
I'll call my audible, because his question was where I was going. But as far as on the sidelines, you talk about the maturity of the team, but also the maturity of the coaching staff. I mentioned these guys earlier. Miami's bench was chaotic the entire game. Your bench and your coaching staff seems to be more calm and chill. Can you kind of talk about that aspect of it, of keeping everybody on the same plane, not just the players themselves, but the coaches staying in there?
And Tommy, it's another great question. I've challenged the young people that aren't, why are you on the bench? Why are you on this team? What do you do? What do you bring? And you may bring cheering, because you're not going to play. If that's the case, man, cheer. You're not on vacation. So many of them down there laughing and cutting up. No, you're coming to win and bring energy to the crowd and bring energy to the other players. Get them water, get them Gatorade. But why are you here? And then with our coaches, we said that the players read you like a book. So if you show panic, they're going to feel panic. It's just like me. At bad times, I'll be more emotional because they're going to look at me and see if I think we're okay. Because they think I have more knowledge than anybody else about what's going on. So if I've got my head down, I used to do this a lot and do this, and it's a bad message. I don't do that anymore. Because to me, they look at me and they say, he's either tired or he's frustrated or he's down. I got to go, man. I got to pick it up. And sometimes you need to yell at an official to stir it up. You got to stir them up. But I love the fact that we've had great coaches. This coaching staff is getting along better than any other. So instead of screaming at each other, they're saying, what happened? What's the problem? Let's look at it. And then they're sitting down with the players who are older and more mature, and they're talking to them about how to fix it. And that's what we've said. They want to win. We want to win. So let's don't start yelling at each other on the sideline. And for instance, Ced Gray, but Michael's kind of talking about Ced Gray at Georgia State 2 years ago yelled at a player, just berated him. And now Ced's going over and grabbing him saying, come here, this has got to get better. And here's what we got to do. Pick it up. And that's where we've grown, I think, a lot with our leadership.
You talk a lot about stacking performances, but stacking lessons during the course of a year, how important is that? And how does last Wednesday stack up with that? And the other part of that question, you come here every Monday and tell us that you coached them like you lost. That must have been a challenge after Syracuse, even with some of the things to pick at. The score was what the score was. So how do those things kind of work together?
Yes, these are all great questions and things I have to think about every day, but I didn't think we responded very well to Syracuse, and I couldn't believe it. I was so mad Wednesday and ripped them and told them, coaches and players, Miami's really good. They're disappointed in their Georgia Tech loss, and they're going to come in here and play as hard as they can play, and we're walking around like we've won everything, and we haven't. So wake up, man. And I take video and I show it to them. And I'm sitting down going over every video at practice with the coaches and saying, what's this? You're allowing this to happen. You're either coaching it or allowing it to happen. And that stinks, and you're allowing it to happen. So you're putting us in a bad shape. I never say we're going to get beat, because you don't want to put that in the kid's head. You don't want to put it in the coach's head. But I say, the way you practice is the way you're going to play. So we're grading every practice play like it's the game and saying this is unacceptable. Why are you doing it? And we've benched some people and we've taken plays away because of practice plays. So we're being really, really hard on each other, because that's the only way you can get better. You can't get comfortable and you can't get complacent. And we've done that around here. And it's time to change. And I said I was at Texas, and we'd just beaten Kansas 66-14. We were undefeated. We were second in the country, and this was 05. And we're getting ready to go play A&M, and they're 4-7. And we're going to play at A&M. And I get a call from Coach Parcells, and he's the head coach of the Cowboys, and I played for him at Florida State. He's a dear friend, and I admire him so much. And he didn't say hello. He said, "You're in trouble, man." And I'm thinking, we just won 66-14. We're doing good, man. And he said, you're in trouble, because you're sitting around talking about you. And you're talking about USC, and you're talking about national championship game. This is Texas A&M's bowl game. They're not going to a bowl game. So their only chance to save their season is beat you. And you aren't even thinking about them. So he said, you're like that big rat that's eating the poison cheese. And he said, you're going to die now. You're going to eat the poison cheese and you're going to die. And I mean, I got scared to death sitting there on the phone. I'm saying, I got you, coach. So I went downstairs and I hung a piece of cheese from every locker, and I put his quote up there. At every locker. And then at halftime of the game, we're down 29-24. And he is so right. And I walked in at halftime and I said, we're going to win the game, and you're not going to die, but you're damn sure sick because you ate some of that cheese. And we need to wake up. And then we won 40-29, but that was the day Vince Young lost the Heisman Trophy. Because Reggie Bush they beat Fresno 73-14, and he had a great performance, so the votes ran. That was it. Because we weren't ready to play that day. So you can't sit around and eat the poison cheese. You can't listen to the talk. You can't pat yourself on the back because we're human beings. We're human beings. So we know Virginia's going to play hard Saturday night. We knew Miami was going to play hard Saturday night. How are we going to play? Are we going to walk around all week and be cool and talk about all these stats about how many times we've been 6-0? Better not, because then you won't be 7-0.
Did you ban cheese from the training table?
No, I'm going to stick some on these lockers.
I actually have a follow-up to the question. Do you think...
Sorry.
That's the second.
Adam doesn't want me to do it.
No, it's no, go for it.
Well, it's all part of the learning stuff that when they come out of the tunnel and the blue lights they hadn't seen except for the student practice, do you think maybe they were so amped up because it was a different kind of environment? And given the fact that you might play more games on bigger stages, that maybe that was a good lesson to learn, that you can't get too amped up in that environment?
Yes, you got to be amped up. I mean, it's a fight. That was a heavyweight boxing fight for 3 hours Saturday night. I mean, it was a fight. They are so talented, and they are so good, and they were mad, and it was just back and forth. And there's things you learn, and it's the thing I love so much about this game. There's so much about life in it. The thing that so much was made about Miami not taking a knee. How about Georgia Tech kept playing? Last play of the game, there's 36 seconds left. Who would have thought on defense, I can strip a ball and I can still win this game? Now that is a huge lesson for everybody, because most people would have said, game's over, let's get back to Atlanta. They fought, and they scraped that ball loose, and then had a chance to win the game with 25 seconds left. What a lesson. Greg Robinson, when he came from the Kansas City Chiefs to Texas to be our defensive coordinator, first thing he did is he put up 4 plays. He put up 2 plays here and then put up 2 plays here, and he said, tell me when this was during the game, and the 4 plays looked exactly alike. The first 2 plays were the first 2 plays of the game, so you're going to play hard. The last 2 plays were the last 2 plays of the game, and they were down 14-0, couldn't win. And you couldn't see any difference in the attitude of the players the last play of the game or the first play of the game, and he said, that's who you are. That's a standard. You play to a standard. You don't look at the scoreboard and don't care. Georgia Tech did that. So what a great learning experience for them. So last week, I put up the goal line stand Oklahoma had against Texas. And I showed all 4 downs. That on Tuesday, you think they were sitting there thinking when they were working on goal line defense, this will be the difference in this ball game? And then I put up our goal line stand against Miami last year. What a great goal line stand. And I showed them. I said, this is going to come up again Saturday night. Are we going to stand up like we did? And then Bo Atkinson knocks the ball loose at the 1-yard line. Changes the game. So it's little 1-2 plays that you do on Tuesday that you can't transfer to Saturday that make a difference in this sport. And that's the thing that's so wonderful about the game. I go to Tuesday thinking this is the game, man. I mean, we're practicing today to win the game. We're not practicing to get through and see what time it is on Tuesday and I'm tired and we'll be okay. We did all right. No. You're winning the game on goal line on Tuesday. That's what you do. And it doesn't go away and it doesn't change. And it's hard for somebody to do that every day. And that's why usually older, more experienced teams can do that better.
Mack, on Tom McGinnis, how did you all arrive there with giving him the shot? Because it looked like Cole Maynard had been sort of your go-to backup, and because he does the rugby punch, did you feel like that was the move? Just how did that all work out?
Now, Tom can do both. It's, we grade him every day, and we chart him every day, and we've charted him since he got here. And he just had the lead, and Cole's good. I mean, both got down to the end, and I would just, you never know. Again, the mindset of a guy that's never been in the game, and he walks out there, and you're playing a ranked team in front of a packed house, and he just punted it, and we were all happy. We were surprised, but we were happy. And I didn't think he looked excited. So you want guys that are excited about the challenge instead of having a fear of failure. And I didn't see that in his eyes at all.
Just a quick follow-up on Kobe. I know you guys are terming it out indefinitely. Is there a belief or a hope that he could get back, I don't know, for ACC championship or a bowl game? Like, what's the timetable?
Yes, they said, depending on how fast he responds, that he could be back by the latter part of the season. They don't give you days, but he could be back.
Is that a surgery?
But yes, already had it Tuesday, I think. And it went well. He's out on crutches, and he was actually at team meeting the other day, and we follow up quickly to try to help him get back on track. And we'd been praying for his dad. His dad had a really bad accident a month ago. I mean, these kids, they have so many things happen in their lives, and here he is. He's stronger, more positive now. My dad's doing well, but Dad was in bad shape. He had to go home and see Dad. Then he comes back, has a great game, has a great catch. He's on ESPN. And then Tuesday, he walks over to me and he says, I'm good. I think I turned my ankle. And he breaks a toe. I mean, it's just life. So you gotta, what we're learning, and Tylee's really helped us. Mitch Mason's been very sick, and he's helped us. But by the way, he's responded. But what we're selling to this team is that we can't control what happens to us. We can't control how we respond to it. So let's take whatever life throws at us, and let's make it okay, and we'll fix it, and we'll move forward with it, and we'll try to anticipate things and keep them from happening. But when bad things happen, like your foot, I mean, why does it happen? And I usually take a lot of guys that get hurt in the NFL and show them great players in the NFL are getting hurt too. I mean, it's a hard sport.
Coach, we'll wrap up with Aaron and Art.
Okay, we got Art too.
Aaron and Art.
Aaron? Okay.
Yeah, we're out of time.
Talk about mental health with your players. We're all living in this kind of parallel lives, universal city, kind of union salary, involved in politics and stuff like that. But when things happen like Ukraine, Russia, and Israel, and your players want to talk about it, not a personal thing for them, but it's obviously what's on their mind. What's the mechanism that you have for them to be able to talk to somebody about it? Something that's not that personal, but it is affecting them personally.
Yeah, you're talking about on the staff?
No, players, anybody.
Anybody that I encourage our players to speak their mind, and when they're speaking their mind, I have to separate what I say that I feel is right for this position, and then what I say personally sometimes too. So I would have to say, in my personal opinion, here's what I think. That's not a university opinion. So we would tell them to do that. When you're speaking at a press conference, talk about your team. Talk about your football. If you've got something personal you need to talk about, then take it somewhere else. And we got into that with the Black Cultural Center back in the 90s, because we had to separate that project, that opinion, that passion from the team to still have a team.
And Sally does that,
Well, Sally talks to me a lot. She helps a lot, and today is her birthday, by the way. So I'm sucking up more than usual.
right? What kind of could affect their play, their attitude? Like, can they go to somebody on the staff?
Yes, Dwight Hollier is a godsend. He played here, two-time captain for me. He was with mental health in the NFL, and he is over the mental health for the athletic department. He's at practice every day. And then we have a young lady that played college sports that's available for our guys at any time, and we encourage them to talk to them. And then you've got Mitch Masons at just about every practice as their chaplain. We've got a lot of people around to talk. Sally's at practice about every day. She's at lunch just about every day. So they'll come talk to her, which is different too.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say real quick, going back to the special teams, Ben Kiernan's injury was very much like, freak accident type deal. How much did that, and also Ryan Coe's injury, how much did that kind of reinforce the importance and need for depth at those special teams?
It's so much, Jeremiah. And we've told our team that you say next man up. When you say it, they don't hear it, but you can show it. We got examples of you don't know when you're going to get your opportunity. You usually get one, and when you get it, you better be ready for it, because if you don't take advantage of it, then you don't get it again. You lose it. And here's two examples of guys that have taken total advantage. And Ryan was standing out there at Thursday's practice next to me helping Noah. And Ryan said, "Oh my gosh, I felt so guilty. I'm so glad he's doing well." So that really helps, just the whole thing. I had dinner, we have family dinner every Sunday night. I had dinner with Ben Kiernan last night. He was so excited for Tom. And Cole was sitting there with me, and he was excited for Tom. So these kids are just different. They make it fun to go to work every day.
I got a scheduling question. The scheduling model has been discussed a few times. All of the power conferences are now kind of facing a similar challenge where there's so many teams. You can only play so many games against teams you always used to play. And UNC had a creative response with Wake Forest a few years ago, but games like Virginia, that's one that goes back a long ways, but these games are getting harder to kind of keep on a schedule. Where do you come down on what, as a coach, what you want to see in a scheduling model versus what can be done with just so many teams in a big conference now?
Yeah. Another great question with all this realignment going on. It's a little crazy. Like you all, I'm a traditionalist, and I love rivalries. I think that's championships and rivalries are the two things that this sport's been built on. And rivalries are about fans picking at each other and loving it. I love to play games that are close to your place, so the parents can go, the high school coach can go, the fans can again fill up stadiums at Wake and Duke and State, and everybody get to see the games. So I hate that we've lost a Nebraska OU. I hate that we've lost a Colorado Nebraska as such, and there's more. You can just check the ones that we're losing. I like the fact that we still play State and Duke and Virginia every year. I don't like the fact that we don't play Virginia Tech and Wake Forest every year. That's such a circle for recruiting, for fan bases, for rival games, for excitement. And that's a real challenge for the conferences now. We just lost divisions. I didn't like that, but it is what it is. Some don't have natural rivalries like we do. If we played Clemson every year, it'd be a rivalry. That's what you've got. It's just because we're regional. But I've always liked regional games. And I think that's something that we are losing some. And hopefully we'll be able to keep ours. And we'll always play State. We'll always play Duke and Virginia. Like I said, I missed the Virginia Tech game this year. That's been a great game and fun for both fans. I missed the Wake Forest game this year. And I sit and watch them because we recruit against them, and we'll be playing against them again at some point with this rotation. And it's kind of crazy. I've tried to look at it. I think we'll play somebody one year, miss the next year, and play the next year. It looks like is kind of what's happening out there. And then your natural rivalry games you play every year, and that seems to be what we're doing. And then you've got to incorporate SMU, Stanford, and Cal, and what does that mean? And then you've got to travel, and what does that mean? And so there's a lot of craziness going on right now over the next couple of years, and I guess that'll be next year. So we'll all wait and see. We went from knowing who we were going to play with Coastal and Atlantic to not knowing who we were going to play, and then having to figure out if we were going to play them every other year, every third year, and now we're changing it again next year. So there's a lot going on.
Do they send you the thing? Do they send it to you guys to review? So like you can raise any sort of concerns or questions?
Yeah, I obviously raised a bunch of them and got no response. So, it's like Sally asks me questions sometimes that she knows the answer to, and she'll say, "Don't you think?" And I say yes, without thinking about it, because that's it.
All right.
See you next week.
Thank you, Matt.